What's going on, golf addicts? David Barnett here of the Tour Junkies. Pat Perry here with me, whatever sides. The screen always does the weird thing where it like switches people over. This is Tour Junkies After Dark, presented by DraftKings. We are back. We missed the show last week. I deeply regretted not being able to do this last week. 4th of July came up and got us. It is what it is. But we're back, and I'm excited about it. I've been a little under the weather. I've been puking my guts out. Hopefully I look a little more slender right now. The juice, the podcast juice / TJ After Dark is Mountain Dew, but no free ads.
Not flowing for you, but flowing for me. Flowing all night.
So Pat may or may not be on Planet Tito's. We just recorded the podcast. Wasn't our best, but it's the John Deere. Okay, like how excited are we going to get? TPC Deere Run is your host venue for the John Deere Classic here 2019. This is a familiar golf course, which we haven't seen over the last couple of weeks. We've been able to see brand new courses. So we've been here at TPC Deere Run a lot of times. Course history is now back into the equation when selecting golfers. Pat, why don't you tell us briefly what is going to be key to success here at TPC Deere Run before we get into some picks and a little bit of disagreement?
Well, a couple things here. I do think approach to the green is going to be important, and you've got to give yourselves birdie opportunities because this is going to be another course. This will be the third week in a row where we're seeing a course where you have got to score a ton of birdies, whether that's on the par 5s, whether it's on the par 3s and the par 4s, whatever it is, you've got to score. So you've got to give yourself opportunities. So I think that's going to be important. And it's going to be a putting contest, and we know putting is hard to judge when it comes to stats. But it is that we have bent grass greens again this week, so I think that's something to look at. Maybe expand your sample size and see what guys typically putt well on bent grass greens because it's going to be a putting contest this week. You've got to score. The course isn't very long, so a lot of players are going to come into play this week. Par 71, so it's just one of the easier courses on tour, and it'll be fun to watch. We don't have a great field this week. So I think you could see sort of a surprise winner, which is one reason why I think when you look at some of the betting odds, you can definitely take some longer odds type guys this week and just take chances because we don't know. You never know who's going to win. We had a guy like Michael Kim win last year, and I don't know what he was, but I'm sure he was like, 300 to 1 maybe, something like that. Hasn't made a cut since then, I don't think.
He was 300 to 1, exactly. You did remember that. I don't know why you said you don't know what he was. We just talked about that.
Okay, maybe I did. It just popped in my head in a minute. But anyway, regardless, you could
By
get
the way,
a guy like that.
Is that a banana on your shirt, or are you just happy to see me?
Yeah, it's a banana. It's a banana.
Savannah Bananas, okay.
Yeah, that's our minor league team.
Way to rep the brand, Pat. Way to rep the brand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't. I wear Tour Junkies stuff every week. I didn't tonight.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, continue on the course.
Anyway, so that's really the course in a nutshell for you. Wide fairways, greens are relatively easy to hit. So I just think that it's going to be a scoring fest this week. I'm going to look at guys who have shown that over the past few weeks. And so we'll see. There you go.
Yep, can't overpower TPC Deere Run. Got to be in the fairway. Everybody's going to be hitting from around the same spots in these fairways. It will be a wedge competition from 125 in, and then a putting competition from there. Bent grass greens is very important, I think. Being able to putt and being familiar on these bent grass surfaces is a big deal. Got to make a ton of birdies. You mentioned Michael Kim winning last year. He won at like 27 under, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think it's going to get to that point this week. But average scores are easily in the 20 under, 21, 19 under, that kind of thing. So definitely going to have to make a lot of birdies, and I love the sentiment of looking at some long shots. And Michael Kim at 300 to 1, that would have been a really nice payout if you'd been on that last year. So let's look for some of that. I think that could happen in this weak field. You don't have a lot of studs. I mean, there's really not even one, honestly. I mean, you've got the 3 young potential studs at the top of the pricing tier on DraftKings, but sometimes in an event like this, you at least get like one big name, like a Jason Day or a Jordan Spieth or a DJ or a Brooks. Like you get one, but this field you don't have any. They're all either taking the week off prior to the Open Championship, or they're playing in the Scottish Open over on the European Tour, preparing for the Open Championship, which is next week. And obviously, we'll have a great show on deck for you there. So, Pat, let's get into it. I got to say, we just recorded the podcast. I couldn't find a ton of disagreement with you on the podcast. It is just one of those events where, we know a lot of things can happen. It's gonna, in terms of playing on DFS and playing DraftKings, understanding ownership percentages in the contest that you're in and where you can find some leverage is going to be key. But we don't really know where that is as of recording the show on Monday nights. So there wasn't a whole lot of places for me to really disagree with you. But there is one guy that I still, honestly, I don't have a lot of ammunition on. It's just a gut play or it just like, I can't stand to pay the price for this guy. And it's Brian Harman at 90, what is he, at $9,400 on DraftKings. And I know it's a weak field. Everybody's priced up. Everybody's price is inflated. I know Harmon's in good form. He's always been a pretty good putter. He's actually, over his career, the worst surface that he putts on is bent grass, which you have here at TPC Deere Run. He also tends to gain more strokes over his career in average or difficult golf courses than he does easy courses. He doesn't have the birdie rate that I think you're going to need to have to keep up with this field. And I just cannot stand paying that for him. I know you could say that for a lot of players, but in DFS, I can't make myself pay for Brian Harman.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Harman, I think for me, one of the things I'm looking at a lot this week is definitely form. When you get a weak field, I think that's one of the main things that I tend to look at because I just like to play the hot guys. And he's been in good recent form. I mean, you look at
he's not hot either. He's only like 5 feet tall. He's balding. He's not a hot guy.
Well, who said he was hot?
He said he liked to play the hot guys. Sorry. I've been ill.
Okay.
I've been ill.
You've been ill. That's terrible. We need to stop the show. No, I mean, again, when you look at his, take another hit of that. That Mountain Dew is really getting to you. I mean, you look at his last 3 starts. He's got 2 top 10 finishes. I like that. I mean, and again, like you said, this is not a strong field. 9,400 does pain me a little bit to pay for him. I liked him in tournament plays. I'm not going to play him in cash, but I do think he's a good tournament play. He's gained 24 strokes on the field in his last 5 events, so I do like that. When you look at the stats, I mean, he's not going to wow you across the board. But he is checking the box when it comes to that proximity stat. You mentioned early in the show, 125, 150 yards. Checks the box there. He's also top 10 in the field in par 4 scoring, so he is gaining strokes on par 4s. Also, always a good ball striker. Always keeps it in the fairway and gives himself opportunities. So I think Brian Harman is a good play this week. It does pain me a little bit to play him at that price, but I think we'll get him still low owned. I don't think he's going to have garner a ton of ownership. Especially when you got guys around him like Charles Howell, Zach Johnson, who is just a absolute stud on this course. Ryan Moore is right there below him, another guy that's won here. And don't forget, like I said, Brian Harman's won here, so he's got the course history to go along with it. So I do like Brian Harman at 9,400. I could see him giving you a little heartburn. I know you had some stomach issues today, so maybe that was because you were looking at Brian Harman and it just gave you the throw ups or whatever.
Gave me the queasies. Maybe that was it.
Sometimes that's what you got to do in these tournaments. You got to take a guy that makes you a little bit nervous. And I do like some Brian Harman this week. So switching gears, though, below that in the 8K range, you liked Kevin Tway at 8,900. He's another guy that I'm a little nervous about paying up for. I mean, when it comes to the stats, I don't see him checking a whole lot of boxes for me other than par 5 scoring. His course history here isn't, great. I mean, he was T12 in 2017, but outside of that, he finished T50 last year, 52nd the year before that. His course history, his recent form hasn't been all that great. He missed the cut just a few weeks ago at the Rocket Mortgage. I do like the top 10 of the Travelers. But other than that, Kevin Tway, I need to get some, because look, I liked him a few weeks ago and he killed me at the Rocket Mortgage. And that's one of the things. Sometimes you got some recency bias. I was watching that cut line literally at the last minute move off of where Tway was. So I want to play Kevin Tway, but I need some good reasons that you have for putting him in your pool this week.
Well, Kevin Tway, so I know what you're talking about with the Rocket Mortgage. He missed the cut on the number at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Gained strokes in every category except for with the flat stick. Before that, rattled off 6 straight made cuts, including a 5th at the Travelers, a 19th at the Charles Schwab, a 36th at the Masters. I feel like he'd kind of come around and found a little form before that miscut. He is a little volatile. He's kind of a volatile player. But to me, he is checking boxes. So, I mean, I don't know if we're looking at different stats or different time frames, but over the last 12 rounds, he's 23rd in strokes gained approach. He's 12th in opportunities gained. So he's hitting it close with his irons. He's 18th in this field in strokes gained putting on bent grass over the last 100 rounds. When I look at putting stats, I love to look at the long-term number instead of the short-term number. Guys who truly have shown that they're comfortable on a certain surface. Kevin Tway is certainly comfortable on bent grass surfaces. It's the best surface that he putts on when you look at bent grass, Bermuda, or POA. He's actually better on bent than any of those three. And we know he's a birdie maker. When he gets hot, he can make birdies. So, I like Kevin Tway from a DFS GPP play. I'm not going to bet him. Probably wouldn't play him in cash games on DraftKings, but in tournaments, it's kind of like the Brian Harman thing where, like you said, sometimes you can differentiate yourself by overpaying for a guy. That's not always what we recommend, right? Like I would say by default, I would rather not pay for a guy who's really not priced accurately. But if you have a feeling on him and you can find some reason to play him, and in Tway's situation, I can find more than one reason to play him. Like it's one way to differentiate yourself in terms of tournaments. So that's my piece on Kevin Tway. Do I feel amazing about it? No. So it sounds like Tway and Harman are kind of in the same boat for us.
Yeah. Now we did have the talk about these top 3 guys because there's the Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Matthew Wolff, all rookies on tour, all with less than 5 starts. I just, I got to call, the elephant in the room is that I talked on the podcast about fading all 3 guys. I think you can do that this week. And look, disclaimer, I keep throwing these out every week about these guys. I understand they can be studs, and Matthew Wolff obviously showed that last week. I'm a little concerned about playing them this week in DFS. I don't know if I will. Just saying. I don't know. They're just so. You talk about golf and how variable it is to pick guys week in and week out. And we got these 3 guys who are now starting maybe their 4th, 5th starts in a row, new life on tour, that kind of stuff. I just don't know if I want to pay up for them this week. And so I said on the show that I was going to fade them. And it just is what it is. I love their talent. I love everything about them. But I think I can get better lineups by fading those guys this week. So we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, and I think because the pricing is a little less, you don't have a guy over 11K. You don't have a guy approaching 12K. I think you can play one of these guys. I will not play Victor Hovland just as the top price guy. I'm not going to do it. Being as inexperienced as he is. And this is a course where experience, plays a factor. I don't know how much of a factor it plays, but it plays a factor. I think you can play Morikawa or Wolff, depending on which one. If you're in tournaments, I think you can play the one that is lesser owned. I don't feel strongly about either one of them over the other, but I feel like Morikawa might be lesser owned, and I would roll with him. I mean, if you look over the last 12 rounds, which for him is the 3M, the Travelers, and the U.S. Open. He is number 1 in this field in strokes gained approach. He's dialed in with his irons. He is dialed in with his approach shots. He's hitting the ball mighty close. And when you do that enough, I don't care how young you are, you're gonna put yourself in some good situations. I think Morikawa is interesting if he does kind of come in below that 15% mark in ownership on DraftKings tournaments. I'd be interested in having a little bit of him, but I don't think you have to play any of these guys. I definitely don't. I think if you want to take that stand and fade all 3, I think it makes a lot of sense to do so, being how inexperienced they are, and the hype train is real. So I'm with you there. I'm with you.
Okay.
Let's get into the DK Sportsbook betting market now. Last week I gave you a 6-way parlay to make the cut, and Nick Watney screwed the pooch for me on that one. And today, as it stands right now, there are no make the cut odds out on DraftKings Sportsbook at the time of recording this, so I can't give you that. But I am going to give you 6 outright winners that I like, and they're all going to be pretty long odds because, just like we said in the beginning of the show, a lot of long odds players have won here, can play well here. This is anybody's tournament, so anybody can get hot for 1 week. So I'm going to start it off with Cameron Tringali at 90-1. He's my shortest odds guy on DraftKings Sportsbook. I love Tringali. Great form. Ball striking's been solid. Love that move. And then at 100-1, Mackenzie Hughes, the Canadian, has been playing pretty well, making cuts, grinding away. But I think at 100-1 is a decent value for him. He is a PGA Tour winner before. So then I'm going to go with 2 guys at 130-1. And I love the odds on DK Sportsbook. They're a little longer than a lot of odds you see on other books. So if you can bet on DK Sportsbook, do it. Joey Garber at 130-1. We had Joey Garber on the Tour Junkies podcast a couple months ago. He loves shorter tracks where you can't bomb and gouge, and he can use his short game ability. He's got a great short game. He's playing really well right now. We've seen some good finishes out of Joey G. He's checking a lot of boxes. I love the 130-1 number. The other guy at 130-1, I'm not playing at all in DFS because I think he's going to be a little popular. He's at $7,200 on DFS, but he's 130-1. That's Johnson Wagner. He has an incredible history here at TPC Deere Run. So I don't want him in DFS because I do think he's going to be popular. I don't think you're going to be able to get a real edge on him. But at 130-1, that's a big number. I think I'll take it. And then I got 2 super long shots here, Pat. I've got a case of the Garrigus, Robert Garrigus. Everybody knows, if you've listened to the Tour Junkies podcast, Robert Garrigus is a guy who, until recently, was on the PGA Tour for a little while. He was recently suspended for marijuana, smoking a little Doja, but he's got an exemption this week. He's a good ball striker. He can score birdies in a birdie fest. I like Garrigus. He is 275-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. And for a guy who's contended on the PGA Tour, who's played plenty of PGA Tour events, plenty of experience. He can score. He's hungry to get out there and prove it and come out of this marijuana suspension with a win. That'd be pretty awesome. 275-1.
He's played well recently too. He's had a couple web.com starts and Corn Ferry Tour or whatever it is, and played pretty well. So.
Yeah, you're right. He has. And then finally, a guy at 400-1. 400-1. Wee Kim. Okay? Not Michael Kim, who won last year at 300-1, but Wee Kim, who last year played this golf tournament, finished 16th. And the last time he played this golf tournament in 2016, he finished 3rd. Now, Wee Kim is not playing well right now. Okay? He doesn't check the boxes. Hasn't made a cut since he hadn't made a cut since 2018 to speak of. But for a guy who obviously really has some sort of affinity for TPC Deere Run, at 400-1, I'll throw a half a unit on Wee Kim. That's it.
Okay. All right. I don't know about that one, but I'm going to give you a few. And I am going to start a little bit shorter. I know I talked about definitely liking the longer odds guys, but here's one thing you get in a tournament like this where there's not a whole, this is a weak field. There's not a whole lot of studs in here. Is I feel like you can get a guy like Joaquin Niemann, who is one of the better players in this field. And I like him at 28-1 because usually like the 4th highest price guy in DraftKings when it comes to like the pricing is somewhere less than 20-1. But you're getting a guy Niemann this week at 28-1. So I do like that. I like that bet. Also Scott Brown, I like at 55-1. And then also Joel Damon, a friend of the podcast, his caddy and himself at 85-1. I think this is a good course for him. He finished 2nd last year here. He can definitely score if he gets that putter hot, which has not been lately, but you never know with the putter. So I do like Joel Damon at 85-1. Also, I'm going to give you my flyer at 300-1. And I don't think you're expecting this one, but it is Andres Romero at 300-1. Also, you might look at him as a top 10 bet at 28-1. He is not a guy that we see a ton on tour. He kind of splits his time between the European Tour and also the PGA Tour. But you look at his last 3 starts, which were on the European Tour. He made the cut in all 3, but he was 23rd last week at the Irish Open, which was on a very tough course in a very good field. So I think Andres Romero is worth kind of a flyer play here at that 300-1. And if you want to bet him top 10, 28-1, if you feel more comfortable about that, go with that.
Interesting. I did not see Andres Romero coming. Not at all.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Pat. Good week. Can't wait for the Open Championship next week, the season's final major, and then it's all going to start kind of winding down as we approach the Tour Championship. Thanks for following along. Be sure and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, if you will. We'd appreciate that. And yeah, check out tourjunkies.com. We got some good materials going up there on the website as well as the week moves on. So there you go. May your screens be green.